YouTube. In this video, we are going to create Lorem Ipsum Generator using Angular. If you click on the random button, you can see the paragraph of Lorem Ipsum is getting generated. You can also drag and change the word count. Now it's 25. If you click on generate, the 25 words of Lorem Ipsum is generated. We are going to create this in the Angular project. So these are the steps. I'll leave this step in the description. So the first thing, I have already created the Angular project. So let me open the Angular project. I'm closing this current project and I'm going to open the project which is blank. If you have followed my previous tutorial, you would know how to create the project. So we have, this is the previous one and this is the new one. So let's open the new Angular project. So to create the project, ng new and the name of the project. So for just time being, I have already created the project. I'm just going to open this for you. So let me open the folder. Fine, this is the old one, you can see. Let me open a new one. It is getting opened. The next thing, we are going to install Bootstrap. Again, I have already installed the Bootstrap. You just have to type npm install Bootstrap and it will automatically install Bootstrap for you. To check whether the Bootstrap is there in the folder or not, you have to get into the node module. Fine, this is the project. Fine, now let me open the terminal and let me run the project. To run the project, ng serve. It will run in the local host with the port 4200. So you get into the Chrome and this is a blank project. This is how it looks for the first time. So we know where this HTML is coming from. It is coming from app.component.html. So now checking whether there is Bootstrap or not, just type BOOT and it will show you. Let me see, where is the Bootstrap? I have already installed it. As you can see, it's over here. You just have to type npm install Bootstrap in the terminal and it will work. And this is the command npm install Bootstrap. Fine. Now to make this to call this folder, what you have to do is you have to get into the global style, which is styles.css, and inside that you are going to import the folder Bootstrap. Let me get the file name where the bootstrap.css is. It's inside dist, then inside css, then it's bootstrap.css. If you notice, I have used a smiley like symbol. It means I need to check this folder on the node module. Fine, let me give the background color to check whether it is working or not. The background color is black. Let me save it. The Angular will automatically refresh this for you. You don't have to refresh. And @ import is must. Now let's get into the app, and inside that we have the HTML. Let me remove everything. So this resource is coming from this file. Let me remove this, and for just checking, Angular will automatically reload. The black is getting, let me make it a light grayish black. Fine, let me add the h1 and h2 style to color white. So we would be having one h1 and one h2, and it will be inside the container. For Bootstrap user, you already know what the container is. So if you see, the h1 has shown up. Let me copy it. We are going to create the HTML in the app.component.html. So we would be requiring the slider. So for that, I'm getting into the W3 school. I'm going to copy this slider with CSS. So the HTML layer is, you will be getting it in the body tag. So let me copy the HTML and save it inside the app.component.html. And for the CSS, we would be not, you can see there is no CSS. So for the CSS, there is a separate file called app.component.css. Make sure you're not pasting it on the styles.css. It is app.component.css. Each component has its own style sheet. So fine, that's working. Now the next thing is I'm going to add the h1 and h2. So the h1 would be the title. For this is a Lorem Ipsum generator. We will be getting it in the we will be getting this h1 dynamically, so that's why I'm typing anything. So the h2 will show the count. For time being, let's say x. I want this heading to be on the center, so for that I'll be adding class text center. Fine, now we need a margin, so let me add a margin bottom of 3 and margin bottom of 5, and fine. Now let's get the title dynamic. So for that, so let's create the result as well. Let's have a card, and the card will have an header, and header will be having a text result here, and each card will have a card header, card body, and footer, and card body is the place where our result will show. Fine. Now let's open the TypeScript file. You can see there is already the title. It's a variable that stores the text Lorem Ipsum generator, and we are going to use this title in the h1. So using the interpolation symbol, we will be passing the title over here. So without, if we just save and get into the browser, it will automatically refresh and see the title has come up. Now let's add a count variable, which would be by default 0. So let's get the count over here in place of x. So the next thing is pass the value of range slider using interpolation. Now when I change this input, I want the count variable to get incremented. So for that, we know on the JavaScript we would be using the onChange event. So this is a function change value, and we need to pass this sliders value, or this is not a slider, range sliders value inside the function. So this is the Angular syntax for onChange. It's just the change, and to pass the slider value, so range slider value, it's like JavaScript event.target.value, but the event will have a dollar symbol. So let's define the function, and it will accept a parameter. It's a value. So this value will store it inside the count variable. This dot count, we need to refer it as this dot count is a class variable, and that's fine. Now what we do is, so the range slider will have a value. We'll pass this value. We'll pass the count over here. So when I change, the value will also change. So if you see, on changing the value, we are changing the variable count, and the count we are using it as a value for the range slider. And now that's working. Now what we need is, as I said, this is the value we are passing it over here, and this variable, this dot count, is getting changed because of this value. Fine. Now let's create a function to modify that we have done this, and we need to add the two buttons. The first one is simply the generate button, and the second one is a random generate button. So to align this button to the center, I will use a div with class text center, and both of the button will have a event, click event. So just like JavaScript, we will write the function on click. So this is a button, it doesn't have any design, so let's add a bootstrap design, btn success, which will give you the green color, and for random generate, let's give the red color. To separate both of them, we'll give the margin as well. For the second button, margin left, it's not top, sorry for that. Margin left 3. And now there's a space between two buttons. Let's add a click event. So just like JavaScript, we'll use a syntax, and this is a function we'll be passing, generate. So this is the Angular syntax for click, and let's define the generate on the TypeScript. So this generate will get the array. So I have already saved an array. I'm going to create a new file on the app. So let's name it as words. It's a TypeScript file. Let me delete it and create it again. Words.typescript, which is words.ts. Now inside that, I'm going to export the array. Default is a access modifier, and this is a file which I got on the internet thanks to whoever is created. And let me paste this array, and we need to let's see whether we have this inside the folder. You can see it's inside the source. Inside the source we'll get an app. This is our file. Get into the source. This is a file which is inside the app. So on the file structure, get into the source. Inside the source, let me refresh it, app. So at the last you can see there is words. It is a TypeScript file, so my window is not able to identify. That's why it is showing the video format. Now we have to import the array in the TypeScript file. So let's name the array as array words. It is getting imported from the file. The file structure, it is in the same directory, so dot slash, and the name of the file is words. You don't have to mention .ts, Angular will understand it. So let's call the array and use a slice operation, and by default we are passing the 10. So it won't work because I have to save the array to a variable, and this variable would be simply words. Let's define the word in the class. So this will get this, you will get it as an array. So there is an error. It is because you are getting the value as array and storing it into a string. So we have to convert this array to a string. So for that we'll use the join operation, and we'll be passing this in as a result. So if you click generate, you can see it's an array value. So we have to convert it to string with the help of join function. And now that's working. It's a string, and by default it's nothing. So let me make this dynamic by replacing the value of 10 with our count variable. Call this count variable of class. Don't forget this refers to the current class. If you change and click on submit, it's a 27 words and you are getting the 27 words lorem ipsum paragraph. Now it's time for the random generate. As like we did for the generate function, we're going to add another function which will be a click event, and let's name it as generate random. Call this function the TypeScript, and we are going to do the same operation just like we did this, but the count which we are passing, which will not be coming from the range slider, but we will generate a random number. So for that we will be assigning it, we'll be creating it with math.random function, and it will return the value 0.0 to 0.9, and we'll multiply it by 100. So we'll get the random number from 0 to 100, and this number will be in the decimal point. So let me pass this dot count, and if you see, if you click on random, generate random, the value is in the decimal format. So to make it integer, we'll be using math.floor or math.ceil or math.round, anything as you want. I will be using math.floor, and that's working. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for listening.